again. Welcome to the very first episode of the SAFSeries webinar. I am Sonia Osayade from PlexiServe, and I would be your host and moderator for today, primarily championing the conversation around tech in Nigeria and the need for diversity. Before we jump right into the conversation, I'd like to share some of the house rules. With me here, I have four amazing panelists that would be co-anchoring this session together. But before I introduce them, just some house rules. This session is currently being recorded, and that means that you could always, play back and listen, or learn some of the things that would be shared today over and over again, and it will be uploaded to our YouTube, which is FlexiServe across all platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. It will be a Q&A type of session where we'll be asking questions of our panelists and hearing their their own point of view on the topic of discuss today. Definitely, our amazing audience would also be allowed to, send in their questions, but kindly use the Q&A feature. If you just look at the bottom of your screen, you'd see that there. So you can send in questions. We'll definitely be dedicating the last 10 to 15 minutes of the session to answer questions that you might have with respect to the conversation that is ongoing. So our conversation for today is Tech in Nigeria, the need for diversity, and to have these conversations with me in no particular order would be Jenny Wokoye, who is the founder and CEO of Clafia. Clafia is a health tech company that believes that all Africans should have access to affordable, primary and quality healthcare, and is working tirelessly towards making this happen, one country at a time. Also with me is Tolu Abiodun. Tolu Abiodun is the co-founder and CEO of Zilla. Zilla is a fintech company that is innovating and helping Africans live their best lives. They would definitely be shedding more light on what amazing work that they do in their various spaces. Also here is Eyitayo Ugomola. Eyitayo is the founder and CEO of Utiva, a workforce development company that helps people learn premium technology skills and partners with companies to hire talent and invest in the workforce development. Last but not least is Olaide Opaola, the co-founder and CEO of Caretaker Technologies, which is a prop tech company that is working tirelessly towards eliminating the stress of property and facility management, here to help property owners save a lot of money and time and help them seamlessly perform the functions that make property management that much easier. So I'll just pass on the mic to them now to have them introduce themselves. Hi Tolu, hi Jenny, hi. It's really lovely to see our faces. So I'll just start with the last person that I introduced and then have him, tell us who they are, their area of expertise, and why they do what they do before we jump right into the conversation. So Olaide, over to you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olaide. So I work in the prop tech space. I have a background in real estate and estate management. And, for years, I find that our space is the one that has had the least level of disruption. Typically, if you're looking for a home, it's always very, very stressful. It's just recently, maybe the past 3-4 years or so, that platforms have started coming up to address issues in the real estate space, but none still address the issues that the real estate professionals are trying to deal with. So basically at Caretaker and my previous work at Co-Build It, we've been trying to just fix the issues for professionals in the space. So yeah, that's what I do right now.
Nice to meet you, Olaide. Then next would be Jenny. Jenny?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jenny. I'm the founder, CEO of Clafia. Just a bit of background about me. So I'm a systems engineer by training, and I've been a systems engineer for 8 years. I've spent a lot of time working in the US federal government and the private sector at Deloitte and at Amazon. And Clapia was inspired by my own personal experience seeking healthcare when I was a child living in Nigeria. And then as I started to visit Nigeria more often, I realized the same situation that I experienced when I was much younger, almost 10 years later, was still the same or had not changed. And so I decided to ensure or work on a solution that will ensure that people can get access to primary health care in a way that's convenient, affordable, and of quality, right? So that it can fit into their schedule and they can focus on other things that matter to them the most. And so really excited to share more about that, and so nice to be on this panel as well. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Nice to meet you again, Jenny. So next would be Tolu Abiodun. Tolu, over to you.
Yeah, can you guys hear me very well?
Loud and clear.
All right, thank you again for having me on the panel. So I currently run Zilla, and Zilla is a buy now pay later startup that enables like African shoppers to buy now and pay later across merchant stores at zero interest rates. And we've come a long way since we started, and we've made a lot of tremendous progress, especially trying to innovate out of the broken infrastructure, broken credit infrastructure that we have in Nigeria and in Africa. And I'm super excited to share a lot more about what we are building and also to be on this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, and nice to meet you again, Tolu. So last but not least is Eitayo Ogumola. Eitayo Ogumola, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sonia. Just in the next few seconds, I will be putting on my video. Eitayo is my name. I am the tech entrepreneur in the education space. The core of the work that I do is kind of like helping Africans learn premium technology skills and move into new jobs. We are playing across the B2C space. We are also helping enterprises to fast track, digital transformation from the talent learning side of things. One of the most exciting things that we're doing, kind of like also working with universities right now to rethink how they are providing tech skill training, to people within their ecosystem. It's really a pleasure to be here. This conversation is something that I'm very excited about, and I see some of my other friends on the call too. So let's do it.
We're excited to have you as well. Thank you, and welcome. Okay, so just to quickly, kick started, technology and innovation is the cornerstone of some of the leading economies in the world. It is without a doubt one of the fastest growing sectors in Nigeria over the last 5 years. We've had, funds being raised, we've had solutions being provided, and we have, startup coming up, every now and again to solve and address some of the problems that we have within the Nigerian space and Africa as a whole, because almost every single one of you, that's the panelists, have spoken about how the solutions that you're providing is transcending, the shores of Nigeria, even onto the continent of Africa. So the question now is, tech in Nigeria, as it were, and Africa at large, do we need to be solving more problems, or do we need to be providing access to the problems that we've currently solved? And what are your takes on this? So we'll just go in reverse, starting with Eitayo and then further down the line like that. Did you understand my question? I'll take it again.
Yeah, I mean, Sonia, I do. My biggest challenge is my network, and I hope that my network gives me the opportunity to really, communicate and provide value. This is the way I think about tech in Africa. We haven't started yet. We are still very at the early stage. Whatever you see now is just we still trying to scratch the surface. We're talking about a market of almost 1.2 billion people. 700 million young people. We haven't figured out credits. We haven't figured out education. We haven't figured out healthcare. And most importantly, we have not figured out policy and governance. And upon these things that I've mentioned will the foundation of technology be built. So I kind of think that there's so much to do right now. And I still think that the players in the tech ecosystem today, Sonia, let me quickly do a very quick check. Can you hear me well?
Loud and clear.
Good. So I kind of like consider us, I mean, we that we are playing in the tech space today, we are the apostle of the good news. The beneficiaries of the ecosystems they are not born yet. Because what we are building today is just trying to like create the foundation for whatever we need to build in the future. So I think that from my perspective, we need to figure out the 4 things that I just highlighted. We need to figure out talent and education. If you talk to any technology entrepreneur in Africa, they'll kind of like tell you that talent is a major problem. Without talent, you can't build at scale and you can't invest in, multi-billion-dollar infrastructure and technology. We need to figure out policy and governance. That's what we haven't even figured out yet in Nigeria. We need to figure out healthcare, and also most importantly, we need to figure out credits. You cannot build a fast rising economy without access to credit. So my thought around this would be, we are still starting. The investment in the tech ecosystem is still kind of very early. There's so much to do in the future, and we're looking forward to an amazing and exciting, future.
Thank you for that, Eitai. I already took down some notes, but I'll circle back to you. So same question to you, Tolu.
Yeah, I think I still very much align with what Itaya said. We're in the very early days, and if you look at the landscape we are operating in Nigeria and many parts of Africa, we've not fully harnessed the possibilities of tech going full scale. And if you compare what we have achieved in Africa with other developed countries, say the US, for instance, where there's been a lot of innovation, and we have had phases of those innovations over time. We are barely doing as much, even if we compare to like the very early phase of innovation in America. And it's a good thing for us, actually, because like Itayo mentioned, we are pretty much the forerunners of this amazing thing that is about to happen, or that will eventually happen. And we are laying the foundation of whatever it is that will happen in the future. Tech is still very early, and the more we can do now, the better we can achieve in the future. And we can make whatever we have in the future a lot great for the people that we're trying to service. The continent is a huge continent with a lot of potentials, very laid back and very takes actions very slowly, but like the possibilities are enormous, right? And we have so much we can actually harness as a continent, right? And I still very, very much feel like we're in the early stage of innovation in Africa, and we have so much we can achieve together as tech entrepreneurs for a better Africa. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Tolu. And just like with Ada, I already have some questions to circle back to you. But before we take more questions, I'll just go on again to Jenny. Jenny, same question. What do you reckon is one of the things that we need to address as a nation, and also like on the continent as well? Are we looking at should we be focusing on diversification or focusing on access?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that we should be focusing on both, and both should be working at the same time. And so focusing on diversification, right? I think Eitayo mentioned a few like sectors that we really need to focus on, because they basically, serve as the foundation bedrock of society, right? So I'm going to speak about health because, health is my domain. Primary health care is the foundation of health. It's the foundation of our very lives, and right. And I feel like we need to see more investments, more opportunities going into healthcare space, because it intersects like everything that we do, right? It shows up, it determines how we show up in life, right? It affects our ability to make money. It affects our ability to go to school, go to work, to just carry out our daily lives. And, you know, I have the saying that sick people, dead people cannot make money, you know? And so I think not even just in the healthcare space, I think like there needs to be more diversification happening across the African continent in different sectors, because, you know, they are serving the foundation of, you know, our well-being. And now increasing access, I think as we continue to build on that foundation, we're also like increasing access, right? For many of the industries or sectors that we're working in, we're essentially building that infrastructure. We're building that foundation, right? A lot of these things did not exist. We talked about real estate, right? Like there's no infrastructure for that. And so anyone that's building in that space, they're building the infrastructure for that. Same with healthcare, same with education as well. Same with credit, right? These things don't have like, you know, the infrastructure. And so I think that as we continue to, you know, create spaces where all these other sectors can thrive, we start to build access to, you know, these other opportunities as well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Jenny, for that take. Like same thing with Tolu Eyitayo earlier. I have some questions from what you said, but we'll circle back to it. So back to the very first person that introduced himself, Laide. Same question. What's your take?
So I think everybody has said everything that needs to be said, to be honest. But one thing I want to add is that, you know, infrastructure is not just in terms of, you know, the way we think of infrastructure now, you think of like internet penetration and all that. That is part of it. But there's also, like Eyitayo said earlier, policy and governance needs to come into it. Right now, there's hardly any like real governance around the technology space. For example, I mean, the SEC just released rules on crowdfunding, like I think a year ago, but still it's not robust enough to actually help, you know, the tech space that needs that particular legislation. And, you know, you find things like that. So when like the fintech space became like really populated, how the fintech served as an enabler for other industries. The fintech companies like Paystack and Co served as an enabler for other industries. So those of us in real estate now that are doing a lot of, you know, we're creating a lot of property technology companies. We're building on the back of, you know, all these fintechs and all that. And, you know, you need several other platforms like that will be enablers for the general tech space. So you don't just find, it's not just about, access. The access is basically providing the infrastructure, because access is basically giving people the ability to use these technologies that are being created. But there's also the need for the tech companies that are being built to be enablers for other industries. So that's just my take on the issue.
Okay, thank you very much. We've all just spoken amazingly well. So I'll just piggyback to some of the things that we've already said. We do have a number of questions, but before we get to that, just to follow up on the things that some information that we've already had. There is one thing that Eyitayo mentioned was that talent is a major problem, right? And we need to have, you know, more people that have the skills to even build to start with. Eyitayo mentioned that the current startup founders and people that are currently building within the ecosystem are more like evangelists, right? The work that they are currently doing is something that it's for generations to come. So basically, this current set of people in the ecosystem are laying the foundations, the Laides, the Eyitayos, the Tolus, the Jennies, the FlexiServes of this world are currently, you know, building to make sure that there is a solid enough foundation for our children and their children to come to build on. But we also have the issue of the fact that even with the limited talents that we have, these talents are being, you know, exported it. And then the conversation of policies and governance, this is not something that, like Laide said, it's not something that we really have control over, right? It's not like we can make policies for ourselves or that we can help, with the governance of the tech ecosystem. So what are your takes on how to, build around this? And it's a two-pronged question, right? So the question of what can be done for us to be able to address the issue of talent. And also on the second arm would be being able to open the door, from what Etaya said, for more people to actually come into the ecosystem. We find that we had a Twitter space a couple of weeks ago, that's for FlexiServe, where we spoke about, does Nigeria need another fintech? You find that most of the startup companies that are coming up every other day are trying to solve financial solutions. So the odd take is, are these people coming to solve problems, or they are coming because that particular space seems ripe and is being heavily funded? So what are your takes, or what are your thoughts on all of this? So in reverse this time, starting with Olaide.
Okay.
Oh, okay, Tolu, you wanted to take it, go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. So I was just going to say that, so I have this conversation I have with my friends who are founders as well, that the battle for talent is not between Zilla and Utiva, for instance. It's not between my company and my brother's company that is in Yaba. It is actually with Facebook, with Google, with IBM, with Intel, right? And it just begs and brings to the fact that we need to be able to defend our talents. And the only way we can do that is for us to be able to produce a lot more, so that we can make enough more money to pay these guys well. So I'll say, compared to when the second phase, or is it going to be the third phase, I'll say, of technology in Africa or in Nigeria, like that was springing up when the likes of Paystack and Further Wave were coming up, we had a lot more people within the country. And that is because at the time, the chances for talents to japa, as I would say, was not as high as we have it now. So today, there's been a lot of attention to the African space, and a lot of foreign companies are looking inwards Africa, looking inwards Nigeria, and are looking to steal our talents. And so the battle for talent is a lot higher now. And so it means that first, we need to be able to produce a lot more to be able to afford the guys that we are training internally, right? And secondly, the guys that Tifitiba are doing, we need to be able to train a lot more talents and bring a lot more people into the ecosystem. And I think we are doing a very good job at that, but I think it can be a lot better. So beyond just training folks, we need to be able to ramp up industry, how will I put it this time? We need to be able to ramp up industry knowledge. So it's one thing to be a product designer, it's one thing to be a software engineer that is really good. It's one thing to be a software engineer that can take a startup from 10 users to 10,000 users. And it's not just about writing code in this case. You need to be able to understand system architecture on that scale. You need to be able to understand security and how you can defend your software against malwares and whatever threat that can come. And so that's industry knowledge, and trying to ramp up our industry, the industry knowledge of the guys that we are training actively is very important. So, and that's why, if a company pretty much raises a Series A, for instance, right? They don't look internally again. So, because they have money, say you raise about $30 million, $50 million in Series A funding, right? I'm looking at folks that have done this several times. I'm looking at folks that have built a technology startup from, say, 100 users to 10,000 users to 100,000 users to 1 million users, and how they have done it. And just bring them on to replicate that thing in my startup, right? Compared to what would have experienced in the likes of America in the early days, where like folks that actually started the company are the ones that would pretty much take the company to scale, maybe with some consulting help. And I think we need to be able to trust our talents also like a lot more in this part of the world, and focus more on making them experience that skill from start to finish, and I think it's going to be very, very helpful, because what we have today is we are producing, it's like what we're doing with crude oil, for instance. We are producing and exporting the crude oil, and then it gets refined, and then we import it again. It doesn't make any sense. So we definitely need to be able to like create an environment internally that creates an opportunity for folks who we're training on a large scale, to be able to like take what they have learned and put it into practice within the industry, and so we can have like folks that are indigenously trained, scale up companies a lot more. Yeah, that's what I think about talent. Pretty much. I don't know if you guys get my points.
Oh, definitely. Or at least I was even taking notes while you were talking about that. So when I introduced myself, I mentioned that, I work with FlexiServe, and one of our objectives is to, improve education through technology solutions, right? And we currently run like an internship system where we allow people, come through our walls to, get trainings in different spheres of, tech, from product management to product development to, front end software development, back end, and what have you. So from what you've said, right, which made like a very make very much sense. It's almost like crude oil, right? We have the raw resources here, but because it gets taken out of the country and then it's refined, then we have to now pay more, to be able to access these things, which does not really do us much good. So we need to be able to build a system whereby we can actually refine our talents here. But like, I think it was Laide that mentioned the fact that we do not necessarily have the resources, and these are things that we might not be able to do without the support of the government, because like what you said, Tolu, you mentioned that a startup that starts today in, say, Yaba or in Abuja is competing, like their talents are not competing with another talent here in Nigeria. The people that are, going to take this talent away are from Facebook, the IBMs, the Stripes of this world, right? So thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Is there any one of our panelists I would like to add on to what Tolu has said with respect to talent?
Well, so something that he said that I would just like to just maybe make a more concise, it puts it in a more concise way is basically right now for a startup technology company in Nigeria, you're competing for talent globally, but your business economics are local. I mean, you are localized to earning revenue in Naira. We also know the state of the economy, but you have to compete for even local talent globally. I mean, you want to hire a developer in Nigeria and he's considering, oh, should he take you, should he take your offer, or should he take an offer he's getting from somewhere in Dubai, right? And as a result, I always recommend to, like, whenever I'm talking to other startup founders like me,
Can anyone else hear Olaide?
No.
Itai was the one that was concerned for network issues. It happens to be that it is Olaide that will probably be needing it. Okay, so we'll just wait for him to join back. I believe that he's having network issues. One of the other things that we need to be innovating around also in Nigeria. Okay, so is there any other take while we wait for him? Jenny, do you want to say something?
No, but he is back.
Oh, okay, Laide, please go on. We lost you for a second. Okay, looks like he's still having issues with his network, so I'll just move on to the next question, right? We already mentioned the fact that there is a need for talent, right? Laide, are you back?
I don't think he can hear you.
I don't think you can hear me either. Oh, okay.
I can hear you. My internet is one kind. But I think I'm not sure what you heard, but I think I already kind of got my point across that, you know, local startups should create business models such that they can also easily expand to other regions, and, you know, so their business economics are not as local as they would be if they're just operating within Nigeria. So yeah, that's the point I was trying to make.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Lady. Since it's not, how do I put it now? Do we need more incubation systems where we can have more talents to even work with? Because right now, according to Statistica, we have about 3,300 startups in Nigeria right now that are, you know, coming up every now and again, which is about 500% more than the second biggest player, which is South Africa. They have about 660 startups, and we're still saying that we do not have enough. We're not solving enough problems, right? We need to have more people within the ecosystem solving more problems, you know, making solutions available, and just generally making the lives of the average Nigerian easier, you know, in the property space, and making primary health accessible, making credit facilities available, even training more talent. So what are your recommendations when it comes to like having an incubation system? I know we used to have one, but I'm not sure they are still very active. That somebody help me now, please. I don't remember the name of that incubator at the moment, but like, what are the things that we can do so that way we can have, you know, more supply, as it were, of talent?
I just want to ask, you mean like, are you asking to have more incubation of talent or more incubation of solutions?
We can do both, right? Since the point is, even if by the time we have more talent, we need to even have, you know, solutions for them to be working on. So a little bit of both.
Okay. So I can talk about like the solutions for more solutions for people to be working on. I think like, you know, what I like about what's happening on the African continent is right now is because is that there's a lot of opportunities and there's so much room for growth, right? I think what I feel is happening, there probably isn't a lot of support for those to go out and explore those other you know, problems that need solutions. I think if you go to Nigeria right now, there are so many things that are staring us, so many issues that need solutions for, that are staring us right in our faces. But I think because there isn't probably a lot of support that goes into, you know, supporting those founders to solve for those problems that haven't even been, you know, solved for yet, or there isn't a lot of investment going into that space, we tend to see, you know, like you mentioned before, you had a Twitter space of like, you know, does Nigeria need more fintechs, or do we have enough? I'm not the best person to answer that question, but you know, I feel as though the reason why there's a lot more people building in that space is because there's a lot of support, right? There's a lot of support. They're building off of like existing infrastructure. But when you go to like other like sectors, right, the infrastructure is not there. There isn't a lot of investment going into that space. So it's much harder for founders who want to build for these problems, but don't necessarily have the support either with the regulatory environment, either with investment, either with whatever you think about it, right? So I think there needs to be a lot of encouragement, you know, a lot of encouragement, which comes in the form of like, you know, financial support and like providing other resources for founders to build and solve other solutions that we, are in our faces, but we either are not, we either are not too keen on solving them because we feel like they're too hard, or there aren't enough support, there isn't enough support to help founders to build in those industries that also, would help address other problems that we haven't really thought of yet. And I also think that as we continue to build, even in the existing sectors, right, that are starting to get out a little bit more traction, we'll start to see other problems, or that would lead to building for other problems that, we didn't necessarily think about, right? But I say all this to say, I think there just needs to be a lot of like support to encourage those to build in other spaces that we haven't thought of, or not really keen to do so now because of lack of support.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Jenny. Aitai, I can see that you're nodding ahead to every single thing that Jenny is saying. Is there any other thing you'd like to add on to what she said?
Nothing really. If Jenny says it, if Tolu says it, Nolaide says it, then I agree. Totally. I didn't mention that Jenny was my mentor in 2020 when I was in the US for one of the fellowship programs. So I totally agree with Jenny and Tolu and Olaide on this point. The other way to think around this is to say that we need to really support local, entrepreneurs, and things are improving, and that's why I'm super excited about the tech ecosystem today. In those days, some 5 years ago, the guys that were raising money were people like Jenny, the brilliant folks from the abroad. They were the ones raising all the money. But then it's quite interesting now that we see super local entrepreneurs that have never traveled out of this country, raising money, doing exciting things, getting into Y Combinator. I think that if we want to scale this level of impact, we also need to encourage our government to create a startup investment trust. We need to do that. And that's pretty much one of the things we're going to do post 2023 election. And when we have a new government, we will see how we can engage the government more to create trust funds, for startups. We need to convert our universities into safe zones for building technology products. We need to run multiple hackathons to help, young people to get out of that early fear of failure. Think about it. One of the fastest way to become successful in the tech ecosystem is to get out of the fear of failure. So if we can incubate more tech entrepreneurs from the universities, we will, scale faster in terms of building more solutions. Another thing I really want to talk about is that because of the size of the market, 200 million people, very small clusters of, expectations, requirements, cultural diversity. We need more people building different solutions. So I don't think that we have even scratched the surface in terms of the fintech, needs for this country. That is not to say that we don't have to build stuff in education and other industries. We've not even scratched fintech at all. I was trying to open a digital bank for my company. It literally took us almost 48 hours to get one. In fact, we haven't even been able to get one yet. So we've not started. There's still so many things to do. We have so much to do. But as we are building more products, we need to invest massively into existing infrastructure, into existing solutions, and double down on how to make them become massive. So we need to build the next InterSwitch in education. We need to build the next Andela in primary healthcare. So we need to make sure that the already existing companies, we invest in them massively. So I would recommend that we need to start to create relationship or foster relationship with the African development banks, with some African, institutions. The local banks should not just do these incubators that they are running. They need to go beyond incubators, start to invest massively in, infrastructures across other industries. That's the way I think about it, but I'm much more double clicking, university ecosystem, supercharging this university students to become tech entrepreneurs very early.
Jenny, you want to say something? Thank you so much for that, Aitai.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Even like speaking from my experience, or at least what we, what I currently see in the United States is that, when you think of like a lot of the startups that we admire, right? Those founders started their startups in universities. And then realizing that a lot of universities started doubling down on like the promotion of entrepreneurship, right? Teaching entrepreneurships in universities. And we now start to see that trickle down all the way to like the elementary school level, right? Like where students are starting to learn like the foundations, or are either becoming like tech enabled, they're learning how to code much earlier, or just understanding what it means to like run a business, a tech startup. You go to middle school, high school, university, and beyond. Even like these corporates, right? They even have like incubation systems because they know that the talent that they have are smart enough to build solutions that will either help their company thrive or like help other people outside of their company thrive. So I think like there needs to be a lot more like more investment going into the education system, right? To encourage people to be, entrepreneurs or tech enabled, and not even just at the university, but just even if it can go like further than that, a step back, I think that would be very, very powerful. Because people are getting access to smartphones now, they're getting access to the internet, they're getting access to laptops. I remember when I first visited Nigeria in the year 2000, right? And I came with my family, and like having a laptop or having even like a desktop computer just seemed like a luxury to have. Now we see more people having like laptops, have desktop computers that can even access the internet. I can't even think of what it was like to access the internet in Nigeria in 2000, right? But almost 20 years later, it's a different story. And so I feel like as these things are fast tracking because of the technology boom, we also need to invest in our people. We need to invest in our students as they're going through the education system or wherever they find themselves, in other industries, to be entrepreneurs and be tech enablers.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I was going to answer your question on how we used to access the internet in the year 2000. And I remember that I didn't even have access to the internet in the year 2000. So I don't have an answer to that question. Okay, so from all the conversations we've been having so far, we've identified that beyond even diversification in tech in Nigeria, we need expansion. We need the current players to be able to even expand on what they're building on. We need to, and this automatically works hand in hand to give access. But one thing that is consistent with every single thing that yourself, Tolu, Olaide, and Eitaya has said this afternoon is the fact that it is not exactly, the easiest to get support to further build these solutions and help it grow into even the unicorns that we hope that they can become in the nearest future. So my question is more direct and personal. So that is, Jenny, you were going to tell us the story of how you started Clafia. What drove the need to start that? So this question is something that I would like to ask every single founder that is here with me today on the panel. That's to Tolu, to Olaide, and to Eitaya. Like, what were the things that made you start? Because it's looking like support can be a barrier to entry, but these problems need to be solved. If the Tolus are doing it, and the Olaides are doing it, and the Jennies are doing it, and the Eitayas are doing it, we might have 1, 2, 3 more people in our audience today that have things that they feel they can, things that they feel they can solve for. But how then can we have conversations around how they can start by sharing your own inception and birth stories?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I've become more comfortable like sharing this story. Before I felt like it wasn't a story that I didn't want to share, but over time I've become more comfortable. But as I mentioned, I first visited Nigeria in the year 2000 with my family and actually stayed here for 6 years. And during that time, we experienced firsthand the inefficiencies of accessing like healthcare, right? We were a new family living in Lagos and we didn't know the right hospitals to go to. We didn't like, or when we even get to the hospitals, I mean, we experienced the same things that we experience today, long wait times, not having the right equipment or even the right personnel, going from one hospital to the next. And my sister, she has a health condition that resulted to an almost near-death experience, and she's still with us today. But that was over time, not being able to manage the current health, the health condition that she had. And so when we left Nigeria, it was just a story or a situation that really stayed with me, and I started to think about like, how can we increase access to healthcare in Nigeria? And so for a very young age, that was something that I thought of. It didn't help though that I was also surrounded by, doctors, right, or people in the healthcare space. So that was a topic that they continued to talk about. I started to visit Nigeria again in 2016 and realized that the same issues that I experienced when I was 8 years at that time, when I first got to Nigeria, was still the same or had gotten worse. And I almost became like kind of frustrated because I was just like, this is a problem that is staring us in our face. Like, why isn't anybody investing in this? Or it didn't seem like a lot of people were investing in this space. So it was an idea, a thought that I was tinkering about, like, for a very long time, even at the time when I met Aitayo, right? And I think in year 2000, it was still a very, very early stage concept that I had been thinking about. And eventually I decided that, it was something that I needed to solve for, right? I would say that I did get a lot of support from my university. So I was going to Georgetown University as well. And what I really liked about Georgetown is that they had incorporated entrepreneurship through like in every class, right? There was some level of, if you were a mathematics major, if you were in the social sciences, right? Entrepreneurship was kind of like woven into, your coursework. And I was from there that I started to like build the foundations of CLAFIA, of what CLAFIA is today. I got support from my professors. I got a lot of support from, the school, their business school as well. And so I think that was the primary reason why I was even able to start. Outside of that, like, I had no idea how to start a business. I had no idea how to even start a tech company, right? Like, I'm technical. And so like I could build a product, but there's so much more outside of building a product, right? And that kind of goes back to like the support, encouraging students and having that level of support that will encourage students to be entrepreneurs. And so that's essentially why I started CLAFIA. It was just due to my, my personal experience as a youngin in the year 2000, visiting Nigeria for the first time. And having that experience with my sister. And, that's something that I don't want other families or personal friends to experience, but unfortunately that is something that we do continue to experience today. And I'm hoping that with CLAFIA, like these stories of, I had a family member almost die, or I got sick because of X, Y, and Z, will reduce and eventually like eliminate. Because like there are companies like CLAFIA, or there are companies like other health tech companies that are solving for other verticals in health in the sector.
Thank you so much for that. We're glad to still have your sister. You just told us the story of how you started. Can you also just highlight on what keeps you going?
I would say like, I see these, like, I see what keeps me going is, the reminder that I still have the opportunity to make an impact, because like I see every day as a new day to solve a new challenge around the same problem. And knowing that the challenges that we're trying to solve for hasn't been solved yet, or we haven't even scratched the surface. I think like at CLAFIA, we haven't even scratched the surface of what we want to do and what we can potentially do in the future. We have a long way to go. And I think it's just seeing this as an opportunity, right? Not that many people have an opportunity to even be a founder, because it's a very hard step to get there. You have to overcome the fear of failure. That's like a very huge hurdle. And then once you overcome that, right, then you have other like milestones that you need to overcome, like how am I going to get to support, either financial, how am I going to get the talent, right? But as you continue to build, you encounter new challenges, but it's just the being able to be the opportunity to be creative in solving those challenges and overcoming those milestones. And so that's what keeps me going, is that this is an opportunity I don't take lightly. You know, if I wasn't doing this, I don't really know what I would be doing. I'd probably be working in an office somewhere, which that's also not bad too. But I know that entrepreneurship has given me more opportunities than working at a Deloitte or at an Amazon has given me. And so that's essentially what keeps me going.
Thank you so much for that, Jenny. Tolu, would you like to go next? So basically your inception story, what made you start Zila and what is keeping you going, just to serve as, you know, kind of like a soft ground for maybe someone that would probably watch this video in the future, or someone in our audience right now, to see like they can actually start and how they can keep going. Tolu, your mic is off.
All right, gotcha. Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, so yeah, I started Zilla based off a need and a problem gap I experienced myself. And in 2020, I was moving houses, and I needed to get a couple of things. I'd saved like up for the relocation, and after moving, if with everyone that has moved houses, you will discover that what you budget for moving and furniture and everything is usually less than what you get to spend, right? And I was spending quite a lot on that project, and I needed to get a couple of my items from Jumia. I was buying a couple of things from Jumia, and I needed to buy a couple more items, right? And I discovered that Jumia, Konga, all the general household superstores, online e-commerce superstores, right, didn't have like a credits checkout process where I could pretty much pick up an item and pay a quarter of it now and spread the payments over time. And it was just crazy that all the options that were available were the likes of carbon, the likes of rent money, which comes at very, very exorbitant interest. I don't really fancy interest because like it's just super expensive, and it doesn't make any sense because like I know I earn a salary, I'm going to have this money next month or next 2 months max, I'm going to pay you back. So why should you charge me this much interest? It didn't just make sense. And so what I just had to do was just wait. And so I then started thinking about how this can be solved. Concurrently, around the same time, I was working on this product at my former at the place I used to work at the time, Number. I was leading products for the agent banking team, and I was working on a product that enabled our agents to access credits right from their mobile app, right? And they get a credit immediately, and they can pay us back at the end of the day or so. And it comes very cheap, and it just made me understand how amazing the credit space is in Nigeria. And by amazing, I mean, I don't mean it in a positive light, because like credit infrastructure in Nigeria and in many parts of Africa is heavily broken. And if I take a credit today, the shortest time before the credit bureau knows I take that credit would be in 30 days time, which is like bonkers, it's madness. Like it means like there's a lot of hole in the credit space in Nigeria. Plus, loan sharks have bastardized how Nigerians see credits, and Nigerians are very, very averse to credit, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time. And so I started thinking of how we can redefine and repackage, make credit look sweet, and make it more enticing for like especially the category of the population that is the most marginalized, and that's like the younger ones, right? And yeah, and we started working on it. I spoke to quite a lot of people at the time. I remember the head of product at Kudi at the time, that's Number now, who is now the CEO of Braz. I spoke to him about it, and we explored like the possibilities of this happening, and yeah, and that's pretty much how like the whole concept started. We explored different approaches to going about it, and we realized that this approach we're going through, that is mounting our payment gateway on the checkout of the merchants, was a better way to approach it, and it gives us a lot more leverage. But yeah, it's been a lot of progress since we launched actually. So today we have over 300 merchants that are currently accepting Zilla checkouts, and over 20,000 customers now that are using Zilla to pay, which is very exciting, right? And it's also very interesting that we are seeing a lot of traditional a lot of traditional loan companies now pivoting and migrating to this BNPL style, and it's just like testament to what all the research we did in 2020 and 2021, where we kind of saw that this was a better way to approach credits, right? And it just validates the market and validates what we're doing practically. And yeah, what keeps me going? What keeps me going apart from money? Yeah, I would say the fact that we are pretty much like building things that people want. So yesterday I was just randomly checking Twitter, and I was so from time to time I just check the Zilla Twitter page and just see what's happening there. And I saw a tweet from someone who so we partnered with Trefford. Trefford is a product management. They do this bootcamp thing, and they help like students learn technical skills, right? And I saw a tweet from some guy that said that using Zilla helps him participate in that bootcamp, and it just made my heart warm because there are a lot of people like me in 2020 that wanted to carry out an action or make a purchase and could not do that because of the restriction with cash that they had at the time. And with a solution like Zilla, you pretty much can do that at no extra cost. And you can pay for what you want to get now at a fraction of the total amount, and pay the rest back in installments at zero interest, which is very exciting. And yeah, that's really heartwarming for me, and also the fact that the possibilities of what this can be in the future is enormous. And recently we have been seeing a spike in like the wave of digital commerce in this part of the world. Recently, Amazon said they're coming to Africa. That's huge, right? And with Amazon's entry, a lot more digital commerce players will also be coming in. So imagine the likes of Amazon steps into Africa, the likes of Alibaba steps into Africa. That's madness. So the volume is going to be mad. And if we are strategically positioned as a payment option that accepts flexible payments in Naira and in other local African currencies, and then that means that we're positioned for greatness.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
so yeah,
much.
that's pretty much it.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Tolu. So Laide, over to you.
All right. So my own trajectory was a little different-ish. So I have a background in estate management, and the conventional thing is you graduate from estate management in a Nigerian university, and you go into NIES, and then you start the Olaide or Paula and Co. And you just basically do property management, agency, valuation, and all that. I thought it was pretty boring, and I thought, because the real estate space generally has not gotten a lot of technology embedded into it. Now we have all these platforms where if you want to rent a house, you can find it. If you want to buy a house, you can find it. But you really can't do real estate transactions online. There's really no data for the real estate space in Nigeria. And the problem that has always irked me the most is there's a maintenance culture issue that is pervasive across Africa generally, not just Nigeria. And, just in trying to find out, okay, what exactly is causing all this? I realized, well, a few people realized that, the practice of estate management, practice of facility management, property management is actually is filled with a lot of mundane tasks. So the typical estate manager in Nigeria uses Excel for all their worksheets, all their report writing, everything and everything. They hardly ever send reports to their residents. There's no accountability between the manager and, whether the tenants or the landlord and all that. And, there are just a bunch of other issues that I saw really affected the end users of housing in Nigeria. I first thought, so Caretakers is about a year old now, or slightly more. I first thought that our first customers would be the residents. That's the people that are living in houses. They want transparency. They want to know exactly how their houses are being spent. They want that when they call the estate manager, he runs to them immediately. But when we released our MVP and we're pushing it like that, I then found that no, these guys are actually not, they're not our customers, because what we ended up doing was we're building tools that helped the managers do their job a lot better. So the managers that we've onboarded could then scale their businesses, because they didn't have to do reports anymore. They didn't have to calculate and find where money had gone to, because service charge accounting is very complicated. And, there's a lot of issues. If you stay in estates, you probably even right now find that a lot of estates, they are fighting with their managers over diesel costs and everything. It's crazy, right? And there's not a lot of accountability in the system. So even if the manager has not spent your money to buy a Lamborghini, you think he has spent your money to buy a Lamborghini, because even though you pay just 200,000, you feel like it's a lot of money you've paid and you should get all these services. So what we've been doing is just focusing on these professionals and finding ways to help them do their work better, help them scale their business. And the side effect of that is, because we have direct access to all this information, we're able to now see exactly how the Nigerian or how localized real estate markets function. You can see, oh, okay, these are how transactions are done in Abuja. This is why houses could be so expensive in Abuja. This is why these areas in Abuja, in Lagos also are so expensive. This is why this is this. You can just better understand the real estate space. And it is just because we're giving these professionals, who I never thought would be our customers in the first place, the ability to do their jobs better. So in a nutshell, what drives me to wake up every day and go to work, apart from the money, like Tolu said, even though right now it's still not a lot of money because we are still very early in our growth, I think that across Africa, there is I've always thought of that everyone deserves a nice home, right? And no matter your income level, no matter what position you are in life, you actually need a nice home. Even if you are at the bottom pair of the income gradient or you're at the top, everyone really actually deserves a nice home. And reason why a lot of people can't get the nice home they deserve right now is because there's not a lot of data. The mortgage system in Nigeria is broken. There's not a lot of financing that is spread across all income levels. And the reason why there's not a lot of financing is because there's not a lot of data to prove that investing in certain income levels will return a profit, right? So I think that with Caretaker and with the work we're doing at Caretaker, we will be able to, down the road, have access to enough information to justify investment in real estate across all income levels, so that everyone can get the home they deserve, or the office they deserve, or can invest in real estate at any point. So fresh out of university or while in university, you can afford to invest in real estate and just hedge against other riskier investments. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you so much for that. You've all spoken well, Tolu, Jenny, Olaide. Something stands through for the three of you, which is you saw a problem and then felt the need to come in, solve this problem, and continue to drive at solving that problem in the with the vision of the impact that the solution would make. So my answer to person that is looking to start tech is that, I mean, Nigeria is a massive economy. We're about, as at the last census, we were about, I think, 180 million. We're due for another census, but it's data every now and then. They say we're between 200 to 206 million. That's a lot of people, right? So there's a lot of things that we can do in terms of solving problems. So from everything that we've discussed thus far, we've mentioned 6 very cogent points that I just want to quickly talk through. The need to train talent and how we might need to look at how to embed the idea and ideology of entrepreneurship even within our education system, from the universities, colleges, polytechnics, monotechnics, even from secondary school, right? Because I was a science student, right? There's a lot of things that I studied and they made me study in school that I currently do not use. But entrepreneurship is something that we would need from now till time immemorial. You need to, either as an employee or as an employer of labor, the entrepreneurship mentality is a problem-solving one, and that is a forward-moving mentality. Then the second one is, I already mentioned that, is if you keep encountering a problem, that might be your indication, or that might be your nudge to actually try to solve that problem. Just put a couple of heads together, try to have a knack at it, take a go at it, and see where that takes you. Then the third one is the reason to drive impact, right? As Nigeria is yours, is mine, is ours. We're not, in as much as we can get other passports any other day, this country is still ours most at the end of the day, right? So the goal to want to drive impact and solve problems is also one of the things that we need to look into. I think it was Eitayo, I'm not sure he's currently on the call right now, that mentioned the need for collaborations, where we need to have people come together. During Olaide's, when he was answering one of the questions, he mentioned how the fintech infrastructure has been built so much so that a lot of the other tech ecosystems can build on that, because during our Twitter space, again, taking us back to that, my co-moderator at that particular conversation mentioned that ultimately, if you're a business that you intend to run, if you are running a business, you would ultimately still pivot to becoming a fintech, because you need to take payment. You need to either buy something or receive payment for something. So that way there's a pari passu, right? We can work hand in hand. We can have Clafia providing health solutions for tenants on caretaker, and we can have Zilla, helping to, what's the word now? Have Zilla helping to the payments collection or buying of things, right? There's space for collaboration. We might need to, look into that and work better on that. Then the sixth and more difficult one is having the government, having policies in place and making funding available to be able to grow the tech ecosystem and space in Nigeria. I know that each time we say the word tech ecosystem, it sounds like a buzzword. Primarily, it's just a group of people that are trying to use technology to solve everyday problems, right? That's primarily it. Tech is just that, when you see people that are in this space, they look like Jenny, they look like Tolu, they look like Laide, beautiful faces, sound minds, and then it just seems like it's a sphere of people. It looks like it's like a cohort of people. Primarily, tech is just using technology to solve day-to-day problems. So I promise that we're going to use the last 10 to 15 minutes of this session to answer questions I might have from the audience. So if you have any questions, kindly drop them with the Q&A button is just at the bottom of your screen, so that way we can have our panelists address your questions. I know there's a question here. Laide has treated it, but he's still going to treat it again for the general house, for the benefit of the general house. So there's that. And then the primary question that we're answering is the tech in Nigeria, is there a need for diversification? I already have some of my answers. I don't know what our key takeout has been for our amazing audience, but I'll use that to close. But before we do that, Laide, this question was directed at you. I think it was from Austin. He asked and said, what policies should the government make available for players? I would like to know relatable examples of structure. Okay, this is also, he has two questions then. So one for Laide and one for Jenny. So Laide, your question is, what policies should government make available for players within the prop tech industry? Or the tech industry as a whole?
Yeah, so I think that like government involvement in the tech industry should be first try to use tech. I mean, our Nigerian government or most of the parastatals that I have been to and I've interacted with are basically very paper-based. A few of them are becoming more adopting technology now, but there's still a lot of paperwork that's been done, and that just slows down the system and everything. In terms of policies, I think it depends on the industry. Earlier I mentioned the crowdfunding rules. And what the crowdfunding rules should do is to enable retail investors have access to what is normally or traditionally only accessible to more premium, more high-end investors, right? There's also the CBN rules for the fintechs for holding money. Right now, a lot of people are finding it easier to register microfinance banks and able to use those microfinance banks to back their technology, which is lovely. So I think because of the way the fintech space has grown in Nigeria, the fintech space is the one that is getting the most attention with regards to regulation. But there's also the property technology space. Now, for a company like Caretaker, we obviously would have to liaise with fintech, but because of the kinds of real estate is predominantly large, big ticket, right? So most people don't want to pay 40 million online to buy a house, right? And if you are paying 40 million online to buy a house, then you need to be able to exchange the papers, the documents for those houses, right? But real estate is very landed. There's no regulation, there's no policy. I mean, everything is still based on the Land Use Act, which is a COBO that is signed by a governor, being translated to this. You don't have a data bank for, who owns what. A lot of people were recommending, starting to have land registries on the blockchain. I think some years ago. I don't know if anything. So there's just a lot that can be done, and that's just the prop tech space. For the health tech space, you have maybe you need insurance policies that would make health more accessible. Maybe something that would help the tech platforms have better relationships with the hospitals, so that when someone wants to access healthcare through a technology platform, then it's just easier to do that, right? Policies also that would improve internet penetration. I think internet penetration right now is at maybe 50-something%. In my hometown, where my father's house is located, there's really no internet. All we get is Edge, and you can't do anything with Edge. If I go there, that means I can't do any work for maybe like 1 week, and that's just, it's just messed up, right? And why is there no internet penetration there? Because maybe some local legislation doesn't allow masts to be built in certain plots or something. So there's just a lot that needs to be done. Government is a very strong enabler of technology in that area in Nigeria. And I think the first step is maybe a sweeping regulation that should just give all agencies and MDAs the ability or the power to independently decide what technology they want to use to improve their own internal systems. I think once the government can adopt technology for its own internal systems, then that already provides an endorsement to the tech space. And then, I think once, right now, when we see government, we see them as the 60-year-olds and everything, all these big elderly men. Once they see the benefit of technology in their own space, once they see how much it enhances that stuff, then they'll be more moved to reel out policies or reel out regulations for all the other spaces that need it. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thank
to that
you.
question.
Thank you so much, Olaide. I hope that answers your question, Austin. Then the second and final question is for Jenny. So the question goes thus. It says that what are the relatable examples of structures that can be built to further help, the health tech space and the tech ecosystem as a whole? I believe that's what the question is.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think Laide kind of like highlighted it a bit, which is like, regulation around, and for one example, health insurance, right? I think, part of the reason why, healthcare thrives in other parts of the world, in the Western countries, is because there's a lot of regulation around it. Now, we don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. Like, I mean, we're seeing the results of that from, banning abortions or whatever that is in the United States. So we don't really know if that's a good or bad thing, right? But at least, they have the regulatory bodies that are there that mandates that people have access to healthcare, right? And if you think about it, in the United States, for example, the major enabler for people to get access to healthcare is through their employers, because there's a mandate that that enforces that everyone has access to health insurance or has access to, car insurance, for example, right? You can't have in the United States, you cannot own a car without having car insurance. Now, if that mandate was not there, I don't think a lot of people will have car insurance, because, people don't like to think of their future self when it comes to like taking care of themselves, taking care of their cars, almost just like on a day-to-day basis. And so it's more so like having that regulatory environment that enables, in this case, like the healthcare sector to thrive, even if it means like, like today, there isn't a lot of like regulation around telemedicine, like what does it look like to provide consultation in Nigeria? And I think like having those conversations with those like states of government will really, really help. One thing that we're doing at CLAFIA is to ensure that we're having those conversations with them earlier so that we can help them shape the policy, because I think sometimes they don't really know where to start and they're looking for someone who can be their guide. Sometimes maybe they just don't care, right? But at least I can confidently say that there are people who do care, and they just need that guide to, help them shape what that policy is. But it's not just like, providing that policy, but also enforcing it, right? Because there's one thing to like, release policy, but then if it's not enforced, that policy is like practically useless, right? So I think like us as, entrepreneurs in the tech space is really taking that step forward to, not to get in bed with government, but at least like working hand in hand with them, because ultimately we're going to have to do that. That's what we see in the fintech sector, and that's what eventually is going to happen in other industries. We're just going to have to do that, whether we like it or not. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. I hope it does as well. I'm not sure if Austin Uche is still on the call, but hopefully he would get the playback and get answers to his questions. So thank you very much, Laide, Tolu, and Jenny. Thank you so much to every single person that has stayed with us, thus far. We promised that we're going to keep this session between 1 hour, 30 minutes, and I do not intend to drag it any further than that. Are there any last words, Laide, Tolu, Jenny? Okay, so
for me, I would just say that, I'm really excited about the tech space and all the things that we are doing right now and the things that we're yet to do in the future. And I hope that those on the call would really, take the step further to overcome, if you're thinking about starting a business or a startup, right? Just take the leap of faith of overcoming fear. I think, even like if you think of those that even have all the resources out the world, like there's no guarantee that your startup will survive. There's no guarantee that it will thrive, right? And so why not take the risk, right? Why not take the leap of faith? I mean, at that point, at that early stage, right? Like you probably don't have a lot to lose. But as you continue to grow, you start to see like the compound effect of, you know, what you started in the beginning. And so never like, you know, underestimate the power of a baby step. You put one step in front of you, take the next step, and then by the time you know it, you're walking, you're wobbling, you're walking, you're running, you know. So those are my last words.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Tolu, you're going to say something?
Yeah, pretty much what Jenny said. Like take the bold step, and we need a lot more innovators. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and as much as we loved execution being like a solid part of entrepreneurship, and like but like we need folks that can really come up with great ideas that can be executed. And if we don't have that initial great idea coming from people like you and I, then we can execute as much. So try to think of that idea, flesh it out, talk to a lot of people that you know are very smart, and then execute. Yeah, like you have a whole lot of people that are going to support you through the journey, and it's going to be rough, but also it's going to be exciting. So yeah, brace up. Yeah.
Raise up. Thank you, Tolu. Laide, any last words?
Just to add to everything that they said, I think now is the most exciting time to try to solve solutions in the tech space, or solve solutions using tech, whether you're starting a tech-enabled business or you're actually starting like a platform business. Because right now there's a lot of attention in the space, and you know, it's easier now than it was maybe 5-10 years ago to start a technology company. There are a lot of VCs now in Nigeria. There are a lot of angel investors. You know, with the exit from Paystack, it's like everybody's eyes open to opportunity. So it's it's easier now because access to finance is becoming it's better. So if you genuinely have a problem that you have a solution for, and your solution actually works, it's easier for you to become more mainstream now than before. So basically now is the time to take the leap. It's going to be tough, as Tolu said. You'd have some sleepless nights and very, very stressful encounters, but you'll be excited. I mean, you'll go every day feeling more fulfilled. You'll have more stronger conviction about the problem you're solving. And, you know, once you see the people you're solving the problem for, it just brings some level of excitement to you that, you know, you won't get from elsewhere. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Laide. I just remember this tweet that I saw. I think it was either a tweet or a meme where it says, help me, I don't know where this startup life, they carry me go. And it's just, each time I see it, I just chuckle and I laugh, right? Okay, so finally, to answer the question that we asked, which is tech in Nigeria, the need for diversification, from the amazing conversation we've been having for the past 1 hour and some minutes, is that beyond diversification, we need expansion, we need more players, and we need to you know, increase the access even to the solutions that we currently have. And for this to be able to happen, you need you and I, we need more people to solve problems. There are a ton of platforms, you know, to get help. You can reach out to Laide, Tolu, Jenny, as much as their schedule and their calendar permits. I'm sure they'll probably, you know, listen and help you out. You can also turn to FlexiServe, right? I already mentioned earlier that we have an internship program where you can, you know, come into if you qualify, right, to learn how to actually run a business, a tech business, because we've been in existence for about 10 years, which means that we've been getting a number of things right? So you can come through our internship program and learn a thing or two, so that way you're not building from scratch, you'll be building on the foundation and the backs of people that have gone, you know, ahead of you. So on that note, I would like to say thank you very much. Okay, I have one final question. Kule, yes, definitely, you would definitely get the recording. You would get it by, say, between today and tomorrow, or latest by Monday via mail. If not, it will definitely be uploaded on our YouTube channel at FlexiServe on YouTube, so that way you can play back and get all the vast wealth of knowledge that has been shared on this webinar today. So thank you so much again, Laide. Thank you, Tolu. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you to Itayo in absentia, since I think his network didn't make him be able to, join back to the call. And to every single person that has stayed with us, from the beginning to now, or had to drop off at any point during the course of our webinar, we also want to say thank you. Again, this is a SAFSeries webinar, and it is something that we'll be having, every other month. And next month, we would definitely be having yet another conversation around tech, education, training, and how to better grow the tech ecosystem and the Nigerian economy as a whole. So thank you and goodbye, everyone.
Bye.